Think about how excited you'll be unboxing 150 super clamps. Yeah, that's fulfilling
Don't buy a new
stuff.
camera. Buy 150 super clamps.
Welcome to the Photography Opinion Podcast. We discuss all things photo, video, and camera related. I'm Ben Lucas.
And I'm Stuart Marlantis.
And this is Photo Op.
So we're in the beginning of a new year here in 2021. This is February. It's still early in the year. And you might have seen a lot of people buying cameras around the holidays. There might be people running around with some pretty fancy, new, shiny gear. And you might look at your own gear if you haven't bought anything new and think, oh, well, maybe I should buy a new camera as well. Maybe I need something new and shiny and fancy instead of my old, boring camera that I currently have. Well, we're here to tell you,
Stuart. I do. It's true.
You do. Well, we're here to tell you not to buy a new camera. So what are you telling me, Ben?
Oh, am I not allowed to talk this episode? Because I did buy a new camera over Christmas.
Well, you already broke the rule that we were going to tell people. No, you're banned. You can't.
All right. So what are we talking about today then?
Well, we were going to talk about why you shouldn't buy a new camera, but why did you buy a new camera, Ben? Explain yourself. Explain yourself.
Okay, so today we're talking about things that you can buy instead of a new camera. But I will point out that the new camera I bought was not just a shiny upgrade because my old one just wasn't cutting it. No, without vague booking, I have a fleet of 5D Mark IIIs that I use for generally everything. I use them for portraits and weddings and what have you. But way back when the 5DS came out, it was this beautiful 50 megapixel monster with crisp images that were nice and sharp. But I rented it for my Iceland trip, used it in the field, and it was kind of junk at a lot of my normal day-to-day stuff that I would do. The buffer filled really fast, the frame rate was kind of low. So the images were gorgeous, but it just didn't work for weddings and a lot of the stuff I normally shoot it for. However, due to COVID, I'm shooting a lot more product photography, and guess what? That studio, I don't need to worry about buffers, those crisp, clear, beautiful images that are ginormous. Clients love it. So it is not so much a camera upgrade as is I bought a different camera for a different job. So it's the right tool for the right job, and because it was being discontinued, it was only like $1,300 instead of $4,000.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Well, I guess maybe you get a free pass on that one. Thank you. If you need, yeah, I'm the police. If you need a new capability, and especially if you've got some fantastic deal on that new capability, then maybe that's a valid reason. But we're here.
Here's a good example though. What's the new Sony camera? The A1?
Yeah, the Alpha 1. Yeah, that's the new one.
The Alpha 1. That's like $6,500, and people are drooling over it,
including me.
And even though it has a ton of great specs, do you need to spend it on it? No, you don't. Today we are going to talk about what you can buy instead with that hard-earned cash.
Yep. Yeah. What should you buy instead of a new camera? And
the very first thing I'll throw out there is lighting.
Yeah, lighting is a big one. So one of the much touted features of the Sony Alpha 1 is its low light performance, that it's going to be this, as usual with Sony, they're trying to push another kind of game changer of low light performance on us. And that's the reason why a lot of people say that they want to buy one. But if you've got good lighting, then maybe you don't need that low light performance. What about that?
That's true. The other thing too is you can have a camera that's basically night vision goggles, but quality of light and quantity of light are two very different things.
That's true.
You can up the quantity of light while still having good like noise pixel performance, but it doesn't mean that the subject will be illuminated in a good or flattering manner. So quality of light is really what you're going for here. I mean, I'm all for good low light performance, not introducing grain and noise and grossness into your image. But yeah, there is no substitution for actual crafting the subject in light to make it look exactly how you want. And then maybe if it's not quite enough, you up it just a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, and there's tons of options here, right? I mean, if you're shooting stills, like if you've got the budget, you can go all the way into really fancy strobes. If you don't, if you're just starting out, there's a lot of speed lights you can buy for not too much money nowadays. I mean, a lot of this, Yongnuo and Godox stuff is really performant, but quite reasonably priced, even for pretty fancy little units. So there's a lot of options there. In the video world, LED stuff is getting so cheap. I mean, you can buy 100-watt dual color fixtures for like $150, or LED panels. It's like a race to the bottom to for how good their output is and how low the prices can go. So as far as sources of light, you can cover any budget really with different options here.
Absolutely. And not just things that put out light, but things that shape and craft the light. So I worked in a studio where we shot like cars. They had a cyc wall that was big enough. We shot semi-trucks in the studio.
Huge.
It was this huge warehouse. And they had like 30-foot Chimera soft boxes. And
awesome.
Those are not cheap. But here's the deal. If you shoot anything that's large and shiny and reflective, without a lot of compositing, you need to be able to get those reflections right, something that is much larger than the actual object. So let's say you're shooting like a wine bottle, right? Let's say it's a 12-inch wine bottle, a foot tall. Well, you don't need a foot-tall softbox to shoot that wine bottle. You probably need 4 or 5 or 6 feet to be able to get it to actually extend over the curve of the neck and keep continuing up without just like stopping halfway through the bottle. So without compositing, if you shoot shiny stuff, you need big softboxes, right tool for the right job. If you want to shoot, portraits, people love Octabanks. That's another thing that you might not. I don't have one. I just bought a couple of standard size softboxes in various sizes, and I make do with what I have. But if you have the budget to buy a new camera, buying new lighting modifiers can change your photography immensely, much more than more specs.
Agreed. So what do you do when you buy these lighting modifiers? Do you just like lay them on the ground, or you set them up on a chair or a table? What do you do with
Well,
those?
I mean, so like I bought a beauty dish, right? And beauty dish, it just crafts a very different kind of light. I got a ring light for Christmas one year, and that is just a very specific look that I couldn't offer before. Now, I don't want to use a ring light for every single shoot, but if I need a client who says, hey, I need a huge variety in different portraits because I'm like an online presenter and I'm using portraits every single week and I don't want them to get stale, well then, yeah, I'm going to bring all the different tricks I have in my bag so that he can get a huge variety of stuff. The other thing too is like there's reflectors, like the Westcott eyelighter. That's not cheap, but it is gorgeous. It just does incredible headshots. So yeah, there's a lot of different lighting modifiers that you can do that can really make your photos beautiful.
Yeah.
But it's not a camera.
Yep. But where do you put those lighting modifiers, Ben? How do you point those?
Oh,
what do you do with them?
I see what you're getting at. Stands, good stands.
I'm trying to pull off the segues.
Woo! Missing the cues.
No worries.
No, yeah, good C-stands are not cheap. The other thing too is when you buy C-stands, you're gonna need to buy like booms and sandbags and like different kinds of like grips and knuckles and just a whole various amount of things.
It's crazy.
Having a quality tripod. On my wish list is a salon stand, which Google that if you're not sure what one is. They're huge monsters that are built like tanks, and they are just as expensive.
Yeah, it's crazy when you buy a C-stand, you think, this thing is so big and heavy, like it's ready to go, and then you put a bunch of stuff on it and now it's all tippy and weird, and now you need to
buy like 40-pound sandbags, and those aren't cheap either.
Exactly. So fun fact, you can buy recycled shot, like for like shotgun shell shot, and fill your bags with that instead of sand. It might be might be an
Nice.
interesting option for those of you out there that are looking for something to fill
The
your
other
bags
the
with.
other pro tip on that one too is if you get sandbags, they are prone to water damage or mold. So make sure that they don't get wet. Whereas if you fill it with shot, that doesn't happen. Shot,
Exactly.
however, new is more expensive. So you will have to
Yes.
buy the bags and the shot separately to be able to save money on that.
Yeah, for sure,
I
for sure.
was doing a lot of travel with mine, so I bought fully enclosed, and I couldn't afford shot, so I bought sand for all of mine. But I have probably like 500 or 600 pounds of sandbags in my studio.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, the shot thing is something that I was recently turned on to and I've been playing around with. I bought some recycled shot for it. So yeah, it's pretty fun. So far it works pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, not just putting your lights on stands, though, but having like a quality tripod.
Yes. So this is something that I've advocated on this show for in the past, and that is look at carbon fiber tripods. They are not the insane expense that they used to be. I am almost completely converted over to carbon fiber tripods, like at every level, travel tripod, standard tripods. I still have a couple huge aluminum monsters, but the carbon fiber stuff is so good and increasingly cheap, just like LED video lights
Yeah,
are.
the
So it's worth looking into.
I bought a carbon fiber tripod about 6 or 7 years ago, and the only thing that has been damaged on it is one of the plastic locking rings. So one of the legs doesn't lock quite right, but that's the plastic, not the carbon fiber. And that was because I just bought a really cheap carbon fiber tripod. I should have probably
And now
spent
for
a
the
little more.
same money you probably spent on that, you can get a surprisingly good quality
One that's better
tripod.
quality. Yeah, for sure.
And that the particularly good thing about carbon fiber, other than being super light so that you can move it around easily, take it up a mountain if you're a landscape photographer, is that it helps reduce a lot of vibrations that you might be introduced more easily with an aluminum tripod. So there are quite a few reasons to get a carbon fiber, and they're increasingly cheap. But if you're spending thousands like what you would spend on a new camera, you can get like the best tripod there is.
You can get the best, really right stuff.
Yep.
Insanely expensive, but they make the best stuff.
Yeah, and
so
that's
if you
and
can
that's,
afford
that's the brand.
the best.
FYI, if you're not familiar, he's not just
Oh
saying
yes,
that it's
the brand
that
is called Really Right Stuff.
Because you might be confused. Like really right stuff. Well, what is really right stuff in the tripod?
What is the right stuff?
That's the
No, it's
brand.
called Really
Yeah.
Right Stuff. I would personally never buy a Really Right Stuff tripod because they are a lot of money, but they are cheaper than a new camera body.
Yeah, for sure.
But as long as we're talking camera stabilization, a gimbal too.
Oh yeah.
If you shoot video, gimbals are getting cheap. I just saw someone in one of my production groups on Facebook post one of those stabilizers that they basically have like an arc in the front with like a weight on the bottom.
Yeah.
So they kind of act like a Steadicam, except they're really cheap and they don't work at all. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yep. I've owned them.
I shot a music video with a guy who had one of those, and when we were putting our two shots together, I used sliders and dollies and jibs and stuff, and he used that jankety gimbal, and I used to call his the seasick cam. Because it technically smoothed out all this footage, but the footage was doing this and waving back and forth the entire time, and it made me slightly nauseous to leave his on screen for too long while I was in the edit. So no, buying a really good gimbal, they're getting cheap now.
Yeah.
Like I remember when the Ronin, was it the
Ronin
Ronin
S.
S or whatever, was the hottest thing on the market. It was crazy expensive, and now you can get one for like $500.
If that, like, so they just released the new Ronin series, the RS and the RS2. I think it's the RS. Well, anyway, regardless, like
Close
they
enough.
released a new S series for the Ronin, and the Ronin S, the kind of original fancy one, that is now like that's still a super good performing gimbal, and
But it price dropped.
I've seen them down into the 300 range.
Wow.
Like that's nutty. Like don't worry about the RS or the RS2. Like just get the regular S if that's in your budget, because that's still
the old
fantastic.
one.
I have a Ronin S. It's still good. I haven't upgraded. Just like get the cheap one.
for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else can you buy instead of a new camera? Hard drives.
Yes.
You're gonna need so many if you're actually doing work. You're gonna
Hard
need to
drive.
store all of that work somewhere.
Yeah.
Right behind me, behind my head there, I've got a Synology Bay NAS backup system. Those aren't cheap, but again, a lot cheaper than a new camera.
Yeah. Especially if you're shooting a
and
lot
that's
of
super
video.
useful. We were having a really hard time producing this podcast because you produce it in your house and I produce it in my house, and we had to send each other footage, and everything we were doing was either too slow, took too long to download, or was capping our like limits of like how much we could do, so we were having to like delete old episodes to be able to download new ones. And now I just throw everything on that, send you a link, and we share that server, and I've got like 18 terabytes in that server that we can use.
Yeah.
So
Good stuff. Yeah, Synology stuff it works super smooth. Yeah, it's not the cheapest thing in the world, but it is a great solution, and you can share out. You're lucky enough to be on gigabit fiber now, so like you can.
I am. It's nice.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. I'm just gonna rub salt in the wound a little bit. It is
wish.
glorious.
Fiber's like a few blocks away from me, so I'm eternally mad. It's been there for years.
Fiber's at the top of your hill, but won't go to your house.
Yeah, exactly. Very frustrating. So, yeah, buy a Synology if you're handy with this stuff. You can build your own. There's lots of software for it, but some sort of
But if you're
storage
not
solution.
handy,
Yeah, buy
there
a
you go.
Synology.
It's
Yeah.
out of the box. It works.
And definitely back up that data too. So we have talked about this before more than once, but back up your data. Like we almost don't care how you do it, as long as it's
We
a
do not
legitimate
care
backup.
how. However, you can get a free month if you sign up through my link in Backblaze, which will be in the description. I am not paid or promoted by Backblaze. I just love it. Absolutely. And you get a free month. I get a free month. You save me like $3. Cool. Thanks. Because that's how cheap Backblaze is.
Yeah, Backblaze is awesome. I use Backblaze for my Windows machine, and it is truly unlimited. You can back up just nuts amounts of data to it. They'll send you a hard drive if anything happens, and then you can get a quick. You can actually do it for free. Like they'll send you the hard drive, and then you send it back
You
to them.
pay
and
up front for the hard drive, and if you send it back, they refund you.
Yeah, they refund you, so you can
So
do it in total
the
for
end,
free.
it is a free backup. All you pay is like the $3 a month when you buy like 2 years in advance or something. It's crazy cheap. It's great.
Yeah, just works. It's awesome.
Let's see. What else? What else can you buy? Oh, graphics tablet. If you don't have a good Wacom tablet, I remember we did the Stop Clickbait episode where someone asked about should you get rid of your mouse? Well, yeah, you should get a graphics tablet. And Wacom tablets are not cheap, but again, really worth it. I will recommend one specifically. Get the Pro medium size. The small size is stupid, ridiculously small. The large size does not fit on your desk. Get the medium. It is the perfect size. And if you get any of their lower end models, I used a Bamboo for the longest time, but what happened is their new Bamboo tablets grew in size, making me think that I would get larger writing space, but the writing space was the same. The border just got bigger. So it's like the size of a note card in the middle that you can actually use. I'm like, what is this? So I used to say like, yeah, get a cheap tablet, but now the cheap one's like, what happened here? I used to have this really cute small tablet where the entire thing was usable, and now it's this huge tablet where a tiny note card. So just, if you have the money, Intuos is great. I know there's a bunch of other tablets, and I think we talked about tablets in like our holiday budget episode, but getting a new graphics tablet, again, not that expensive.
Yeah, I'd get the Wacom. I would agree. The Wacom kind of medium pro size is the way to go. Obviously, there are people say forget that, get an iPad Pro. I mean, there are different options, right? There are tons of different options.
If you're in the Apple system, sure, but an iPad Pro doesn't let me control my computer.
Exactly. Well, somebody's going to say they have it set up so that it does, but yeah, regardless, graphics tablet, right? Graphics tablet is
doesn't control my computer.
Yeah.
I'm on a Windows. Anyway.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a good way. If you're on a budget, I've been playing around with this Huion, Huion, like
it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Whatever.
I know we talked about that one in the holiday episode.
I'm
just go
looking at it
listen
off
to
camera.
that. Click on the thing that skips you to tablets, and you can see all of our tablet recommendations.
That has worked pretty well for me. I'm just mentioning that as like if you're really on a budget and you're gonna go for like what you would think is good, the large Wacom bamboos, I would probably go to one of those instead, because the Huion ones, because you get a bigger surface, bigger actual usable surface for your money. If you're really on a budget, you might want to look at that.
Yeah.
If you can spend any amount of money at all,
I bought my bamboo like 10
Wacom.
years ago, and then right after I bought it, they switched and made this size ridiculously small.
Yep.
You know what? We skipped the most obvious thing that you should buy: lenses.
Oh man, yeah. Yeah.
There are
Forget everything we just said. Buy a lens.
Yeah. How have we not mentioned this first?
Yeah. I mean, this is like we talk about cameras giving you new capabilities, which is true, but in some situations. But you can give your existing camera vast new capabilities with a lens purchase. I mean,
yeah. Let's thought experiment for a second. Let's thought experiment for a second. You go from, I shoot Canon, so I'm just going to mention Canon, but whatever, thought experiment. You have a really junk Canon Rebel camera, okay? And you have a junk kit lens, and you're like, I want to get better. I want to buy more stuff and up the capabilities of this camera. You could buy a really, really nice new Canon camera, throw that same junk lens on it, and guess what? The image quality is junk because it has to filter through the lens first. So you're going to get a really high pixel count junk image at like 5.6.
Yeah.
Or
if that, a lot of junk lenses don't even resolve, right? Like they don't resolve enough to take advantage.
Or you could buy a really, really nice lens, whether that is just like a nice portrait lens, like an 85. You can get like the 1.8 for really cheap. You can buy like your standard 24-70 for 2.8 if you were on a kit lens before. Those aren't cheap, but that is going to get you way better pictures with your old Canon Rebel than upgrading the body would. If you do landscape, those telephoto lenses I know are not cheap. Not at all. I just bought the probe lens, which just blows my mind, the perspective and things I can do with that I literally could not do before. It does not matter what camera body you attach to it, you cannot get those shots without that lens. And now that I've bought one, I'll see a YouTube video and they'll include a shot and I'll just go, probe lens, you used it. You used probe lens on that shot.
And the other great aspect about buying lenses is, assuming you stay in the same lens mount family,
that lens will last you forever.
Yeah,
that
forever,
lens will last
right?
you 10 times longer than your body.
So we're not stupid. We know you that you're eventually going to cave and buy a new camera, because we do it too. And if you've got better lenses, those better lenses are going to continue to be good as you buy new cameras. So yeah. It's
a lens that you take care of lasts you for life. I mean, your dad worked at Boeing, right?
Yes, and he still has lenses that he bought during that time, for his own, because he also did his own photo business as well when he was working for Boeing. And he bought lenses.
Sorry, I will say specifically, he was a photographer for Boeing.
Yes, he was a photographer for Boeing. So he had some
really nice legendary Nikkor lenses.
Yep.
That are they're still good now, even though he bought them how long ago, you think?
Oh, decades at this point. Yeah. I mean, there's like, and some of this actually holds true for some of the stuff we've already talked about as well. Like lenses, like he has tripods, stands and stuff from back in those days that are decades old that still work really well. So it can be anything from as simple as simple as sticks as a tripod, or as complicated as a lens, and it's still valid, right? I mean, maybe someday you're adapting it to a newer body and maybe you don't have autofocus or something, but it's still good glass, right? Like there's a reason why people buy these even on the cheap end. Like people are really crazy, or at least recently-ish have been crazy about the Helios lenses, the Soviet kind of knockoff lenses that have all these like swirly bokeh and stuff like that. These are like $50 lenses, and people still use them and still buy them and still love them today. So if you buy a very performant, expensive lens today, you're probably going to use it for decades to come, and it's still going to be good at that time. So yeah, lenses are always a good way to go. And as you said, they literally can give you capabilities that you don't get anywhere else, any other way. There's no way to get a probe lens look without buying a probe lens.
As soon as I started shooting weddings, I went out and I bought a 100mm macro because that was literally the only way to get photos of rings. You cannot shoot a good ring photo with a 50mm macro, or 50 nifty 50, I mean, because they're not macro. You can fight me on that one because I know photographers that do it and they'll just like crop or whatever, but they're not good photos. If you shoot ring shots, you need the right tool for the right job. So there you go. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yep.
I know all the stuff that we've talked about so far is buy a thing, right? Which is kind of what this episode's about. But I'm going to turn it on its head. Here are some things that are not actual things, but better ways to spend your money than buying a new camera. I have two in mind. First one is workshops, and the second one is just experiences. So like for workshops, if you are a starter beginner photographer and you kind of have like some good lenses and you've got like an okay body, but you're like, oh, I bet if I bought that new camera body, I'd be better. No, get a workshop, get good, learn how to be better, or go into like get a business workshop and learn how to grow your business, and then you'll make a lot more money and you can buy that camera lens easier. It's like when you play any video game, you see that camera, you see that like next level skill upgrade is like 1,000,000 coins and you're like, oh, I'm never gonna get that, but you just play enough and then all of a sudden that becomes irrelevant. It's kind of the same thing with business of like, I'm kind of at a point where when my wife's like, ooh, yeah, this thing's kind of expensive. I'm like, cool, how much is it? She's like, ooh, it's like $100. I'm like, okay. I've got, every time I go on a wedding, I've got like 30 grand in my backpack. Like, okay. Spend the $100. Not that I'm trying to like showboat or anything, but like, that's just kind of how it goes,
Yeah, I agree. Like education is huge. Like that is worth, and I don't necessarily mean college, right? Like you said, workshops. Like focused education can be hugely valuable. I have gone through tutorials, workshops, especially for video editing kind of stuff. That's been like, I've used it again and again. That has been worth my time and worth my money if it's cost money at the time. And experiences are a little bit harder to define the benefit, but there's something to be said for just broadening your horizons and trying something new and working with literally a backdrop that you don't get any other way.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'd
spent
thousands of dollars to go to Iceland for 2 weeks. Like that's an experience that I will never have again. My friend hired a helicopter pilot to tour him through like Patagonia, and he got all these amazing landscape photos. Like, these are things that cost a lot of money, but if you're about to drop $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $6,000 on a new lens, think about, wait, what else could I do with that? That's like a trip to Italy. I could, get pictures of the Tuscan countryside or the Colosseum or the rivers in Venice. There's just so many things that you could do and experience, and those photos, like, maybe you'll be able to sell fine art prints of them, or maybe it'll just be something that is so creatively fulfilling that it will inspire you to do something cool or interesting when you get home. Like, there's just so many other ways that you could spend that money and be personally fulfilled by it rather than spending it on a camera. You get the camera I'm kind of at a point right now where there's a lot of stuff that I buy where when I open the delivery box, I don't have the joy of like, oh, it's here, I'm gonna open it. I'm like, cool, I got like another super clamp. Like, I needed it. That's why I bought it, but like,
I'm hyped for every super clamp purchase.
But you know what I mean.
Understand. I'm just kidding. Be hyped for every super clamp purchase. That's what we're saying today.
Yep. Buy
super clamps and be excited.
How many super clamps could you get for like $2,000?
Oh, my goodness.
That's
so many.
Something like 150 super clamps.
So many.
There you go. You'll never need a new one.
Think about how excited you'll be unboxing 150 super clamps. Yeah, that's
Don't buy a new
stuff.
camera. Buy 150 super clamps.
Well,
that was fun.
I think we've covered it.
I think that's it. I feel like Bubba from Forrest Gump, and that's about it. Yep. Those are all the things you can do instead of buying a new camera.
Buy that stuff. Don't buy a new camera unless you're Ben. Then you're allowed to.
Then all right, well, thank you for enjoying. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, Apple Podcasts is where all the other podcasts draw their ratings from. So no matter what app you use, rate us on Apple Podcasts, and that is going to help more because that helps on all the platforms versus, I mean, you can rate us wherever. That'd be sweet. But yeah, go ahead if you liked it, give us a rating, and let us know what you want us to talk about next. We love answering your questions. I know that we got a viewer question that we are going to start the next episode with. So if you have any questions, you can email us hello@photo-op.show.
Yep. There you go. Hello at photo-op.show.
And we will see you in the next one.
If you have questions or ideas for future episodes, you can email us at hello@photo-op.show.
Watch us on Ben's YouTube channel at NomCreative.
As in Om Nom Nom.
Share this with a friend, and you can listen to Photo Op anywhere podcasts are sold.
Or download it. 'Cause it's free.